Kaieteur Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
It is 19 hours 30 in Guyana and right across the Eastern Caribbean. A pleasant good evening to you and welcome to your Monday, August 24th edition of Room 592, where we unleash the truth. And of course, joining us on Room 592 as usual is our host, Dr. Mahadeo, and his co-host, senior journalist Leonard Gildarie. And this evening, they're joined by the Honorable Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, Mr. Nigel Darmlal. Gentlemen, pleasant good evening to you, and over to you.
Good evening to you, Mr. Joshua Van Slightman. Good evening to my co-host is back, Mr. Leonard Gildarie. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. I thought you would have sung it a little more excited than that. The good minister is here, so good night to you, minister. I'm not sure why my host is not excited.
I will get to the Minister Justin. I'm sure everybody across Guyana is excited to see Honorable Minister Nigel Darmlal. But Leonard, I must say, Minister, my apologies. When a masked man walks into our room 592, we have cause for concern. But let me just say, viewers, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're joining us from, welcome to Room 592, where we unleash the truth. And I'm happy and privileged to welcome Honorable Minister Mr. Nigel Darmlal to Room 592 to talk with us about his ministry, of course, to talk with us about the focus of the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. And at the same time, it's a privilege to welcome Mr. Gildarie back from his undeserved days off. Absolutely, absolute abandonment and all of the negatives that can go with it. But jokes aside, ladies and gentlemen, it's a fantastic evening all across Guyana. There's a new government in place. You could feel the energy that is already sweeping across the country. And you could feel the energy of the government itself that is trying to do, I believe, the best that it can do, given the circumstances of both COVID and, of course, all the political things that has been happening. Mr. Darmlal has been thrown into the deep end, and not that he's not able to. We know the man, we know he's very much able to. He's been thrown into a deep end, not just to run the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, but he has been thrown into the deep end in terms of giving a lifeline, in terms of lifting the ministry and bringing it up to start to deliver what it ought to deliver. In the brief conversation I've had with Minister, it is amazing as to how much that lifeline has had to be built, fostered, and developed. I don't think a lot of Guyanese appreciate how far gone things have been, how negative things have been allowed to become. And so it is a monumental task for people who wanted to hit the government, to hit the ground running, to hit the ground running from a deep hole climbing out. And so, Minister, welcome once again to Room 592.
Thank you, Jorgen. Good evening to you and your viewers. Good evening, Leonard.
Good evening.
I'm happy to be on your program. And indeed, I have a great task ahead of me, and we are well and able to get our job done. We have begun earnestly, and we look forward to serving our people across Guyana over the next 5 years.
Great. And Minister, I'll have you know that a lot of people are looking with keen interest. You would know this. You've been a politician for a long time. You have entered into Parliament in 2015, I believe, would have been your entry into Parliament. And so you have been a political face of the PPP yourself. And, a lot of people are looking with keen interest as to what you and your team at the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development doing. And I would like to just hand over the microphone to you, sir, before we get into a question and answer segment. Tell us what you have found. tell us what is there at the ministry, and explain to the Guyanese people maybe what are the bits and pieces that you've had to start to pick up, to put together to make the ministry back into an effective, well-run unit that you want it to be. Tell us what you have found, because we have heard your discussion last week on social media and on radio and TV about contracts and about all of the questionable expenditures that would have been coming at you. I rather suspect you have had thrown in front of you some invoices that you're questioning. Where are these things coming from? Over to you, sir.
Yes, very well. Just before I start, I'd just like to also let you know that the ministry has two ministers, myself and the minister within the ministry, Anand Prasad. Before we get into the details of the discussion, as soon as we got into office, that is on August 6th, we decided to conduct a situational analysis of the current affairs of the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. And what we found was quite startling. I think shocking might even be a better expression. In the Minister's Secretariat and in the ministry, just 56 staff we found who are earning or who have earned in the last 5 years, just on salaries alone, over 810 million Guyana dollars. If we were to add their gratuity, which is 22.5% per month payable at the end of every 6 months, gratuity and all their allowances put together, including leave passage and so forth, that figure rises beyond $1 billion in 5 years. And that is just for 56 staff. Notably amongst those staff would be a number of political elements attached to the APNU-AFC. And many of these elements, if I were to mention their names, the public would be amazed that these were at the forefront. Many of them were at the forefront of defending the dictatorship, of standing against democracy, standing against the rule of law, and standing against our right to count every vote. Names like Ganesh Mahipal, Randolph Critchlow, who was on that show with Jones and I think Duncan. He has been one of the hosts on the show as well. These guys were all my staff. And the startling thing about what has happened too is that when I investigated of their work, there is not an iota of evidence that they would have performed their duties to the benefit of the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. And there was no evidence that they actually used their offices, having been paid, millions of dollars over 5 years to correct the lives of people across our country. We find that outrageous, and insofar as the ministry has proceeded, I think, it's public knowledge now that we were able to terminate their services, and we intend to move forward in a professional, dynamic way with staff who are conscious about the needs of our citizens and who are willing and able to work towards satisfying those needs and wants of our citizens.
Sir, the numbers you're calling, they're pretty staggering. Leonard, Minister has said here that almost $1 billion, maybe more, because they are yet to quantify fully everything, all the bits and pieces. But if it's $1 billion over 5 years for 56 staff, that amounts to $17.5 million on average per person.
You did some calculation on that?
You take a billion and you divide by 56. It's an amazing figure. And Leonard, I would remind you, when you had Mr. Mahipal on the daytime show, I did ask the gentleman, are you a paid servant of the state? Himself and his colleague. And Minister is telling us that this gentleman, along with Mr. Critchlow and many others, were actually being paid by the state. In his case, Minister, pardon me for segueing this conversation, but is being paid by your ministry, or was being paid by your ministry, to do political work, not work relating to regional development or local government, but pure politicking. And that's an amazing figure of $17.5 million per person for politicking, Leonard. Is Glenlal paying you anything like that?
I can tell you that my salary is unbelievably low. Nothing compared to that. And don't forget, Yog, this would have come just not too long ago over the weekend with news that we have used taxpayers' dollars to pay for court cases that should be paid by a political party or coalition.
Correct. So, Minister, if we can get back to some of your numbers, and allow me to ask you in the following way, sir. So we have paid in wages and salaries and allowances and gratuity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is people receiving money, physical money. This does not include their benefits in terms of cars, their benefit in terms of fuel for the cars, their benefit in terms of any other ad hoc allowance, their benefits in terms of petty cash withdrawals or usage of petty cash, their benefits for drinks and coffee and uniform and all of that. Am I right, sir?
Yes, you are correct. And a
is
substantial amount of that was actually paid during the 5 months of their defense of the dictatorship and their refusal to adhere to the rule of to the will of the people. Critchlow was earning about $306,000 per month. Mahipal, on contract,
Wow.
Mahipal is a member of the pensionable establishment. He's a staff of the pensionable establishment of the government, earning about $221,000 per month. And that is outrageous. There are many, Carol Nurse, Lachman Aziz, that activist from Bushlot on the west coast of Berbice. We have Oscar Clark, the former General Secretary of the PNC, with allowances in excess of $450,000 per month. When I found out, I was told that he goes to the ministry for 3.5 days per week. I have not seen any evidence, not even a dotted I, of the type of work that they would have done. You find names like Donald Ains, who has been a minister under the PNC in the 80s, 340-something thousand plus per month. Ernest Elliott from Region 4, who was a former MP of PNU-AFC, same figure, 340-something $1,000 per month. You'd find one guy, a technical coordinator, was earning over $500,000 per month. It's outrageous.
Outrageous indeed. And Minister, go on.
Sorry. And we intend to pursue to the end, the circumstances of their engagement and the work that they would have, or quote unquote, claim to have produced during the course of the 5 years. I see this as $1 billion heist on the treasury by these individuals, and I think that they must be held accountable for it.
And Minister, if I may,
Minister,
sorry about that, Yog. If I may ask the Minister this as we on this topic here, did you try to call them in, or did any of your staff try to call in these people and says, what were you doing at this ministry over the last 5 years?
Well, I've spoken to some of the REOs. Most of them were dispatched to the regions, and many of the REOs indicated to me that some of these guys did not have any evidence of their work. They were actually not even reporting to the regional administration in some of these regions. And so at the ministry per se as well, there was no clear supervision of what they were doing. And that is why you'd find persons like those names that I mentioned. There are many more who would have been on the political campaign trail, who would have been political activists. And the most egregious thing about all of this that I find is that these are the people, our taxes were paying them to run an illegal, unlawful, unconstitutional government, especially since the passage of the no confidence vote in December 2018.
Yeah, 2018. Minister, do you know, as a collective government, as a collective PPPC government, do you know if any efforts are being made to collate the collective draining of the treasuries by these political activists? Because what we have heard, I mean, Minister Gail Teixeira was here last Monday and she called some of the very names from another ministry. I think Mr. Anil Nandalal had called some names from his ministry. And so we have found that persons were double dipping, triple dipping, quadruple dipping from various ministries. Is there, do you know whether there is any effort being made to collate, to bring them, do a reconciliation to say, okay, Mr. Leonard Gildarie, his total collection per month from the government was X?
Yes, naturally, that is being done, and we would have to audit their performance. We would have to also appraise their performance over the last 5 years, and I think that we owe it to the taxpayers of Guyana, and we owe it to the law-abiding citizens of our country to make this information available so that they themselves can determine what course of action need to be pursued.
And,
Wow.
and
Great.
if I may
And sir,
ask,
my last question on that
okay,
part then.
go ahead.
Go on, Leonard.
Yeah, what I really want to ask the minister
Go on.
now, because for me as a
No,
taxpayer, I'm asking on behalf of Gildarie now, what assurance would this government give that we're not going to see a report that's job for the boys or the girls in this new administration?
Well, as you are aware, Leonard, we have campaigned on having certain ethical standards in our administration and in the dispensation of our government. And naturally, you will find that we will be seeking professional people. We will be seeking people who are non-partisan. And I think most importantly, we'd be seeking officers of the government and of the state who are genuine in the development of our country. And in the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development that I can speak for, that is how we intend to pursue. Up until now, I have not yet been able to put together my own secretariat. I don't expect my secretariat to go beyond 4 or 5 persons. Vulcan's secretariat had all of these individuals that I mentioned to you.
Right. Minister, do you, the persons who were occupying the various offices prior to your taking over, have they vacated the offices? Have the political appointees been terminated? If there were persons that were occupying government houses under your ministry, have they been vacated or are there still problems there?
Insofar as I'm aware, they have all vacated. The REO of Region 3, the former REO of Region 3, had indicated to me that she had written to Mahipal quite over a week and a half ago for him to also vacate the house in Region 3. Mahipal's position is a community development officer and
Wow.
state in Region 3. I also heard he was earning quite a substantial amount from the Guyana National Newspapers Limited Chronicle.
Right.
There is one member or former member of parliament from Region 10 who apparently was the advisor to the minister as well, but was paid through the Ministry of the Presidency. Also is substantial, a few $100,000 per month.
Who's that person?
So
is would we be wrong to say it was really a payoff for the boys, the political boys and girls, basically?
Not be wrong, because over the last 2 weeks we have been out, practically the entire cabinet, including our president, including our vice president, including our prime minister. We have been out across this country, and the amount of money that was spent in the last 5 years in 6 budgets, it is difficult to see the work that money was supposed to, they claim that money was spent on. Naturally, in our ministry, I'm only telling you of a few, 56, earning $1 billion. I'm certain that in the other ministries, it is billions more. And that is the nature of how the past regime managed our country. And that is why you find that they were so, they were willing to sacrifice their professionalism, integrity, and defend all the wrongs that they defended in the last year and a half.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you heard it. 56 persons to be exact were earning about $1 million US per year from just one ministry. And, you know, if you look at the number of ministries that certain persons have been double dipping, triple dipping, quadruple dipping, and drawing money from all various places. Persons have also been beneficiaries of grants, and, you know, even though they were public officers and paid public officers, they were beneficiary of grants and who knows what. As the days progress, we'll certainly have more of this. Minister, my last question to you on that note. Let us just use Mr. Leonard Gildarie's name as an example. If Leonard Gildarie is one of these 56, is your ministry ready to release his employment documents to the media?
Yes, we would be willing to release, but we are still collating that information at this point in time. And I'm certain that in due course, the public must know who these culprits are, and we intend to make that information available. I've hinted
right
some of these names and what their conditions are, and in due course, we'll also have to.
And Yogi,
the reason I'm asking you that, sir, is that it is taxpayers' money, as you rightly mentioned. And the second reason, remember, it is the media that that has been good at putting together some of these things. For example, if we go back to the 5 horrible months, remember it was the media that brought together all of these people who the commissioner of police said were overseas and were not supposed to vote. Remember, Leonard? Mm-hmm. So the media is quite good at getting these things. And, you know, I would like to urge that as early as possible that the documents could be released. I think I, for one, would certainly love to see some of those, because I would like to see, Minister, you see this thing about these payouts, it is not just, Guyanese people have to realize it's not just about the payouts. It's about the total mockery that has been made of not the PPP that was opposing the affluent government, but is being the total mockery that was made of every single taxpayers in this country. It's every one of us that has paid the Critchlows and the Mahipauls and all of these people, ladies and gentlemen, and they must held accountable for using our money. And this is why I'm passionate about wanting to ensure that these documents are released to public. Sorry, Leonard, you were going to ask a question.
Yes, before you go, Leonard, before you go, there's also a name called Andrew Weeks, a communication officer. I think he's a member of the media. He was also on my payroll. Well, the ministry's payroll, earning in excess of $200,000 per month.
Oh, that's interesting, because I think he was one of them that was calling for a boycott of Kaieteur News. I would like to see that gentleman. In fact, I want him to come on radio here. There's a guy that was doing some racially divisive statement, including wanting to boycott Kaieteur News and Starbuck News and a couple of the independent media. Well, Minister, I'm interested in something else. There is, after the ministry would have parted company with these individuals, there would have been some costs attached. Do we have any idea, let's say for those 56 staffers, how much that would be? Because obviously you got to pay them off and so on.
Well, Leonard, we govern via the law, and their termination has been lawful, and whatever they're owed, they will be so paid. But insofar as I'm aware, the contracts that they have allow them a month's notice, and we have since done all of that. So I do not envisage that they will seek to pursue any more recovery. And if they seek to do so, then I think that that will make it even worse in terms of their hunger for the state largesse.
Correct.
And
let me just say this, Leonard. Let me just say this. I'm sorry, Leonard.
Yeah.
In answering to one of our viewers, Natasha Teddy, Natasha, you're absolutely spot on. Look, public servants need to be paid more. Nobody will argue with that. Teachers need to be paid more. Nobody would argue that. Policemen needs to be paid more. But here is what the problem is. The real public, this is what the minister is saying, the real public servants, the one who are actually sweating, giving their labor in exchange for their job, they are not getting this money. It is the political appointees that are coming and getting their super salaries. And why is 200? Why we are looking at $200,000? You think? Because one of the gentlemen, for example, whose name minister has called, has received $200,000 here, has received another couple of $100,000 from another ministry, has received another couple of $100,000 from another place, and has still received another set from another one. So they have quadruple dip from different places. Meanwhile, teachers are not paid, policemen are not paid, the people who are in ministers' ministry working hard are not getting salary. And guess what? All of these people were earning all of this money when this country was under starvation for 5 months with COVID-19. Children couldn't get meals to eat. People couldn't get food. The private sector, private individuals like us had to put hampers together to share out when some of these barefaced thieves were stealing money out of the treasury. And I have no apologies to make by calling them barefaced thieves, stealing from the treasury while people in this country are starving. Sorry to be carrying it on, but Leonard, this is a touchy subject, and it is about emotions because people in this country deserve better.
Well, I've seen some
Sorry,
arguments,
Leonard, go on to your
yes.
question.
I've seen arguments, Yog, that public servants who would have been sitting in positions that is parallel to what the minister would have alluded to there. It's not fair to them. They've argued that in terms of upward mobility and so on, this thing would have a big issue with their entire mind frame in how they would see you doing the same job or not even doing the same job as is coming out now, and you getting more money than me. But I want to ask the minister, because somebody's asking it here. Minister, have you examined or have you sought legal advice whether the people of Guyana could recover these monies for work not being done?
Well, Leonard, the people of Guyana deserve to know what has happened to the expenditure that they stand in this country. And I would think that the Attorney General, him being as learned as he is, would be in a better position to answer that question. But as a taxpayer myself, I would like to know what has happened, and I would like condign action to be taken against those who trespass against transparency and accountability.
Correct. And you know what else is important too, Leonard and Minister? I mean no personal insult to these people. This is a matter of taxpayers' funding and taxpayers' money. Quite a number of these persons, Leonard, will be in Parliament and will be drawing down a parliamentary allowance and a parliamentary salary and a parliamentary pension. And you know, the rot continues. And that is probably one of the most glaring examples of total disregard for people in this country. Anyway, let us move on. Minister, thank you for sharing with us that type of information. And I would certainly look forward for any of the documents that you can share with us, because as people in the public, we would love to help to put these bits and pieces together as well, sir. Minister, I want to just quickly move on to something that I know would be in your front burner. Whether you can do anything about it, given COVID and all the challenges you have, is another matter. But local government elections has to be something that's right up there on your agenda, because at the end of the day, your government has to be able to deliver on that. And why I'm saying I know local government elections is not your forte, so to speak, but the entire local government and its management and its structure and having the local government produce for Guyana. First of all, what's your thought about local government elections preparedness? And secondly, tell us about your local government ministry's plan for especially your regional foray, sir.
Yeah, local government elections are on the cards. They're due next year, almost at the end of 2021. And we intend to have local government elections. As a matter of fact, it is under the party in government that I serve since 1992, brought democracy into our country. The PPPC in 1994 had local government elections in our country. And the history will show that we have always promoted good governance via local government elections as one of the ways of ensuring that our people practically self-determine. But so there will be local government elections. There is no discussion about that beyond to say that there will be local government elections, and when that time comes, we will get there. in terms of the ministry itself, divided into local government and regional development, we have 70 neighborhood democratic councils in our country across Guyana. We have 10 municipalities, and institutionally, they comprise the structure of the local government system. Of course, the custodian of the local government system is the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. We intend to provide support to all of the, what we call LDOs, local democratic organs. We intend to ensure that they're able to provide better services. So our focus is to build capacity in these institutions. You're aware that many of the individuals who have taken up positions as councillors within the LDOs, whether the NDCs or the municipalities, these are individuals who are just like you and I from our neighborhood, and our colleagues or our citizens put us forward to represent them. So we have to provide quite a lot of training and support to them. We intend to also work very closely with all the institutions to have greater subventions go to them. This year, however, we have the challenges of COVID. We also have the even more, an even bigger challenge of what transpired since March 2nd. So we will have an emergency budget. We intend that the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development will play a critical role in small endeavors, whether entrepreneurship endeavors, whether social assistance or social support type endeavors in communities. We have to rebuild the community development councils across our country. Some of these individuals that I mentioned earlier, they were the ones who were running or claimed to have, well, they were paid as agents, some of them, of the community development councils. They have produced nothing. So we have to organize the local system. And I think that that is one of the primary things that we intend to pursue in the very near future. This weekend last weekend I was in Essequibo, that is Saturday and Sunday. And one of the things the residents raised was the whole issue of pensioners being uncomfortable in moving very far to receive their pension. So we had discussions with the regional officials, and one of the things we intend to pursue is to have pensions paid to pensioners in their own villages. That will create some challenges, but I think it is something that has to happen. We cannot allow our elderly people to continue to suffer the way that they have been suffering just for $20,500 per month. So
absolutely, you deserve that is power to you guys, sir. That is good. Anything that looks after our elderly and our children, hats off to you, sir.
And as you speak of our children, you're aware also that schools have not been open as yet because of the situation regarding COVID. We now have, I think, over 1,000 positive cases in our country, 31 deaths. And when we compare that with our neighbors, I think Suriname has 3,500 positive cases. Venezuela has about 39,000 positive cases. Brazil, it's 3.5 million plus. So a lot of work has to be done. We have to retool the health departments in all of the regions to take care of our school children. We have to retool the education departments and the health departments to take care of our patients across the country. You'll be surprised that so much money has been budgeted and claimed to have been spent in the last 5 years, and some very basic things are missing in the health system across the regions. We also intend, as part of our regional development, one of the things that the president would like to see done is repositioning our regions. Regions have specific characteristics that will attract investment different from a centralized type of investment. So he has given us the mandate to reposition the regions, to build regional economic and infrastructural plans over the next 5 years, and we intend to have that vision realized. So in Essequibo, for example, in Berbice, the characteristics that are primary to those regions, those characteristics are going to take the front burner. Likewise in the hinterland as well. We have quite a lot of development works to be done in the hinterland, and we expect to pursue those as quickly as possible too.
Great. And I know from your background in the former PPP government, you would have served a portfolio relating to hinterland development and, you know, stuff like that. I guess you would want to pick it up running again and ensure that development is being done. Because from a political perspective too, I guess the PPP is very interested in the hinterland communities and the indigenous peoples as constituency as well, right?
Well, the PPP is the biggest Amerindian party in our country. So naturally, but I think it is more than just politics. I think the way the PPP operates is more humane compared to some other political parties, especially the one that we succeeded. We go into villages to build people's lives, to enhance their lives, and that is why, you know, the president has announced that we will provide a greater number of scholarships. He has been able to secure, I think, a few hundred scholarships now to the University of Guyana. We intend to create 50,000 jobs. The village economies in the hinterland, 210 plus Amerindian villages and communities across Guyana. We will have to make sure that those economies are rebuilt. The infrastructure going into the hinterland, that also has to be rebuilt. We were in Region 8, myself, Minister Pauline Sakai. We were there recently, and already the biggest complaint is basically, you know, reducing cost of living, providing more support, ensuring children go to school, enhancing the infrastructure. Roads are already in a deplorable state. And so quite a lot has to be done, and we will collaborate with all of the ministries. One of our primary functions is to collaborate with other ministries as they reach out to touch the daily to life people across our country. So I've been in contact with the Minister of Agriculture to resolve issues in the agricultural sector already, in public works, in education, even on scholarships. We would have to help the Minister of Public Service to also reach out into the regional, the other regions, to get quite a lot of our young people on board on the scholarship program.
Correct. So it is a wide-ranging thing, and I guess it goes without saying, you and your junior minister's plate will be quite filled. Minister, I want to come a little bit. I want to go to the 10 municipalities you mentioned. Of course, you know, always a primary concern is our capital city of Georgetown and your interaction there. But my first question to you with regards to George and the other municipalities, almost all of the mayors a month and a half ago, came out publicly in calling for David Granger to just proceed with swearing in. How does that, does it affect your working with them in any way? And how does it build for a good rapport between you as minister and the head of the mayors in all of these areas?
Well, that is a choice those mayors made. But moving forward, I think that we respect the rule of law. The government of the people is now in government, and we have so far, I've contacted the entire municipal system. We've had engagements with the mayor of Georgetown. He has expressed commitment to work with the government of the day. He has indicated so in unequivocal terms. He has indicated to us that his city is cash-strapped. He has also indicated, and I think very clearly, that he wants to distance himself from his predecessors because Georgetown has been affected tremendously by massive irregularities, whether in management, whether in the financial aspects of it. But Georgetown is in dire straits. And in our first cabinet meeting, the president himself, Dr. Irfan Ali, has mandated us in the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development to put together an interministerial task force, including the ministers of Public Works, Agriculture, for us to come up with a plan to get Georgetown into a state that we are all proud of as citizens of Guyana, having the legacy of Georgetown, the history of Georgetown, as the garden city, as the capital city of our country. Georgetown has a lot of history, and we will not allow the politics of any individual or any party to separate us from development in Georgetown. So we put together a task force that conducted a rapid assessment of what needs to be done in Georgetown. And we are currently in the final phases of allocating resources. We will discuss it further with the mayor, but he has expressed that he will support us to ensure that Georgetown gets to a pristine state. And we're happy for that. And we will, well, we've already begun works in some areas.
Right.
And you will see Georgetown moving forward. Finally, on Georgetown, we also intend to have some role in having the City Hall reconstructed. City Hall is one of our pristine buildings in Georgetown, and we have to get it to a state that we can all, be proud of. I don't want to overuse that expression, but the mayor will have to make sure that resources are available and properly managed. Part of us providing this impetus is to ensure that there is sustainable management thereafter. So we cannot continue, government cannot continue to dole out billions of dollars into the city, and it is mismanaged. So the city will also have to come up with a sustainability plan in terms of operational sustainability as well as financial sustainability.
Gotcha. Minister, there are two things I want to raise about about Georgetown particularly. There has always been a hesitancy, and one could understand why, with regards to the defaulting taxpayers. Mm-hmm. Isn't it time that the mayor and the ministry consider a name and shame approach? Defaulting taxpayers to the city should be exposed. Because a lot of, they may have reasons why they're not paying up their taxes. They may have a matter in court, for example, against the city council. But I think at the end of the day, a good and a healthy and a clean city is not for just the defaulting taxpayers, it's for all and sundry, the entire Guyana. And so I would like to ask your thoughts on that, sir. And my second point on Georgetown particularly, and it goes for all the cities. For all of our independence, the problem with our city is that the city council has always been political. The municipality of Linden, the municipality of Georgetown, always, because it is run from a political perspective, you would find that when a municipality doesn't agree with your government, they're not going to spend all the money that is centrally allocated to them. They prefer to send it back at the end of the year, but the people in the area suffer. They don't know these political games are being played. Minister, isn't it time that the ministry put together a non-political management team that works between the ministry and the city council to restore Georgetown, not just for 6 months, but to work for a medium term to long term to really manage the cities outside of the ambit of politicians? Political management is not taking us anywhere and hasn't done so. And let's talk pure politics, sir. Could the PPP win local government elections in Georgetown and win the mayorship, for example? All of those are, questions that I'm sure you guys will be thinking about. But back to my two questions. One is there any recommendation that you could consider to name and shame and to discuss with the mayor, expose the defaulting taxpayers for the city? And two, is a medium to long-term professional management team that works between you and the mayor and the city council?
Well, I think we have to look at it from a different perspective. The city has suffered independence, or for as long as it has been established, but especially since independence, it has suffered from from a lack of leadership. And insofar as history will point us, successive regimes of the city council have always been supported and are derived from the People's National Congress. I'm not castigating the People's National Congress, but I think that they have not provided the quality of leadership that is required to take Georgetown out of the current morass that it is in. And I think when the president appointed the interministerial committee at his first cabinet meeting with us, signals that, to me, it signals that he is serious about getting the government into Georgetown to make sure that outside of the council, that the citizens of Georgetown, live a different life, benefit from the vision of the president. And I think most importantly, we have to make sure that in all of the municipalities, and especially Georgetown, that decisions of the city are made from the bottom up. And as a matter of fact, that is one of the approaches that we will be pursuing and that we have already begun to pursue across this country. No policy of the ministry or no policy of the government per se will not be imposed by the government onto the people, but it will be derived via consultation, via collaboration. So we intend to work very closely with the citizens of Georgetown and every other municipality to ensure that their taxes or their rates that they pay, that those rates are well managed, that the subventions that we provide as a government into these councils, that those subventions are also well accounted for and well spent. Actually, the councils do not return the subvention. All the years that they have received, they have basically kept the subvention. And I think this time around, I intend to ensure that they account for it. And every tranche that they receive, they have to account for the previous tranche. So we have to work out very closely with the different councils, and especially Georgetown, a mechanism where, as you said, we have to professionalize this approach, and we have to make it free of the political nuances so that services can be provided. On the issue of naming and shaming, I think that the city council itself has to pull itself together. It has to first make sure that the services that it offers, that those services are in keeping with good standards and are also in keeping with the needs of our citizens. We would have to root out corruption that happens in the city hall, and very soon the local government commission will, I think, come to an end, I think on the 23rd of October. And when the new commissioners take effect, I would like to see them also spend a lot of time in making sure that the best people are appointed in the administration of these councils. Too many times and too often we've had in Georgetown especially, the party that governs Georgetown, that party plays to a great role in politicizing the administration of the city, and we cannot allow that to happen. So long and short of it, I think that we have to first work with the mayor to fix the administration of Georgetown, and then we can go out and deal with the rate collection. He has given us some figures. The mayor has told us, I think it is about $6.8 billion in rates and taxes that they've been owed. And even what is more staggering, and is something that he will also have to think about, 142 plus billion in interest. If the mayor is serious about collecting his rates, then he has to find a way. I mean, let us start from now and put a system in place to begin rate collection. We have to have some honesty in the process, but I think we also have to have some diligence in
Of course. Thank you for that, Mia. And that is a staggering figure you have called there in outstanding taxes due to the mayor and city council. Minister, the problem is even bigger, isn't it? And I'm sure that, look, let me applaud you first of all. You have been in office for what? Under a month.
2 weeks.
And 2 weeks. And let me applaud you. I hats off to you, sir. I'm not saying this because you're here. You have spoken well. You have in 2 weeks taken an absolutely wonderfully great grasp of what's in front of you and your obligations to this country. And while I speak as a citizen of Guyana, I know your obligation is towards us all as a people of this country. And hats off to you. You're speaking well, and you have obviously, pulled up your sleeve and gotten your hands well into your work. Sir, the city council, you pointed out to something that is extremely accurate. The city council has been, Georgetown City Council has been inundated, has been overcome with one fraud after another. Over the past number of years, we have seen an inquiry that held former town clerk Royston King, I believe, responsible for certain things. I think he took legal action. There has been one thing or another. How do you as a minister plan to ensure that the officers, like the engineers and the town clerks and these people, how are they reporting to you, first of all, in any way, whether sideways, whatever way? Do they owe any administrative reporting to you? And excuse me, how do you plan to hold them as a minister? How do you plan to hold them accountable to the people of the city and to Guyana?
Well, all municipalities are governed by the Municipal and District Councils Act, of which the ministry, the minister is the custodian. So they will have some responsibility to my ministry, and likewise, they will have a responsibility to the almost 300,000 citizens of Georgetown. One of the things that I've spoken about is that all councillors of any council across this country, whether it is an NDC or a municipality, it is a requirement that they have meetings in their constituencies. And budget-wise, our ministry will have to concur on the budget and endorse the budgets of the different councils. I do not see any concurrence or endorsement unless there is evidence of these councillors going out into their constituencies and meeting with residents to determine what projects are to be undertaken. Secondly, we have already issued a mantra across the country at the RDC level, as well as the NDC and at the municipal level, that all of them must have an issues log register where citizens can make complaints, citizens can make observations, they can raise issues, they can state their concerns, and I have an officer detailed for every area to give me a feedback on a daily basis so that we are able to know the issues of our citizens on a daily basis. That I will have to forward to His Excellency, the President, Dr. Irfan Ali, so that he also is in a position to determine what investments or interventions have to be pursued, of course, in deliberations with us, to positively affect the lives of those people. So it is much more than just them reporting to me on a daily basis. They are officers that are employed by the Local Government Commission. They are supposed to report to the councils that oversee them. And I intend to ensure that the ministry plays a critical role in the professionalism, the types of services, and the quality of services that those officers provide. The Local Government Commission, as you're aware, is a statutory, not yet a constitutional, but a statutory commission that works very closely with the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. And in my meeting with the commission recently, I've also outlined the way of work that the ministry will be situated upon, and they have indicated, they have given me full assurance that they will work along with the ministry to enhance the lives of people on a daily basis. We have to have, Georgetown, for example, is a multi-billion-dollar business. It is a multi-billion-dollar council. Their budget is close to $3 billion per year. So we have to have, transparent people. We have to have accountable people. We have to make sure. When I spoke to the mayor, and he has given assurances that, and I'm impressed that the mayor has actually, given us an opportunity to work with him. Other mayors have not done so. And so the use of the national tender procedures, I would like to see that the taxpayers, whether ratepayers or taxpayers in Georgetown, that when projects have to be pursued, that they're done so lawfully, legally, in conjunction and in consonance with the National Procurement and Tender Administration Act.
Indeed.
So
And Minister, with regards to just a little bit of housekeeping here, two things I'll ask you, very different things. One is that do you as minister and your junior minister, do you guys plan to restart, given the COVID-19 constraints, meeting the public and having people either approach your officers or find a way so that they could air either their complaints and concerns or suggestions to you?
yes, certainly. And I just like to let you know that Minister Anand Prasad is a colleague minister of mine. He's not junior to me. We work
Sorry.
in support of each other. And that is why we set up the issues log register in all of the institutions in both the regional system as well as the local government system, so that we can get some feedback. We have also, every meeting, we publicly tell people our phone number, and we have been inundated with calls, with messages. So we are on top of all of these issues. And I think both Minister Prasad and myself, we are quite amenable to meeting with people. We are always out in the fields, and we operate in simple, humble, humble spirit. And so that is how we will continue. As soon as the COVID situation gets under control, we will have our open days. But right now,
Yes.
Different people are coming from 8:30 in the morning until way into the evening, meeting with us. So we are also seeing people on a daily basis. As you're aware too, we are also out in the fields. Minister Prasad was in Berbice, Region 6, specifically over the weekend, whilst I was in Region 2.
Mm-hmm. And so to Mr. Kurt Singh, that is the answer to your question, sir. Minister here has said publicly that the minister is allowing and is of course welcoming, not just allowing. They look forward to suggestions, the questions, the complaints, whatever it is, all in order to help and to ensure that we are all helped, because our goals are the same: to uplift the country and to uplift the city and all of that. Minister, in terms of the in terms of Georgetown itself, though, would you say that maybe a good fraction, a healthy fraction of the outstanding sums to the city council might be government itself?
I have not disaggregated. And so when that time comes, we will discuss it. But I think the bigger issue is the management of the city. That is the bigger issue. And we have to fix that. So irrespective of whether the outstanding debt is 6 billion plus, or whether it is 1 million, the management of those resources. And the City Hall has been challenged by management for very, very many years. And I would like for our ministry to work with City Hall to gear up management and provide better services. Solid waste management, I think the City Hall spends about $21 million per month on solid waste management. On garbage collection. We also spend about $21 million per month management of the sanitary landfill.
Right.
And so,
thank you. And so, Minister, Sorry, Minister, can you two other municipalities I would like to ask for your comments on in an open way: Leonard and Linden. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, well, I'd be happy if you had asked me about the third. I was born in New Amsterdam. So, and I spoke to the mayor of New Amsterdam recently, and we intend to pay her a visit and to see how best we could work with the Council of New Amsterdam to get it back. The ancient county and New Amsterdam has a lot of history. That aside, Linden and Letten, for example, is on the border. So it is basically, the gateway into Guyana from one of the biggest countries of the world. I think the sixth biggest economy in the world is Brazil, and Letten is the official port of entry. So there are investments planned for those areas through my ministry, as well as other ministries, including the Ministry of Public Works. So there is going to be greater development. There is going to be infrastructural, as well as the socio-economic development in Letten. In Linden too, we would have to help in the management. I think Linden has suffered for a long time, especially, again, I want to underscore leadership. And so, because Linden is the gateway to the rest of Guyana, you have to pass through Linden, cross the Wisma Bridge to get into the interior of Guyana, to get into the best parts of this country. And so we have to find a way to make sure that the mining town of Linden raises itself, and we work very closely with the citizens of Linden to realize that. Lots of work has to be done, and the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development will be working assiduously every day for the next 5 years.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you very much.
Leonard?
Yes, thank you very much, Minister. You did mention waste management, and I want to ask you, here's a question for you. Guyana is for the last 50 years plagued with managing its solid waste resource, solid waste rather. The person is asking if what are the plans of the ministry in terms of waste separation and recycling? And you did mention the Higgs Bosch. It has not lived up to the potential or where we wanted it to be. What are some of the plans to arrest that?
Well, on the first issue, solid waste management is always evolving because the economy is evolving, and we would have to make sure that we position or reposition solid waste management to the changing or to the dynamics of the economy. Now we are an oil and gas producing country, so I don't think the solid waste management portfolio took that into consideration maybe 3-4 years ago. So we would have to refashion it. And yes, we would have to do recycling. We would have to do separation. These are things that can happen now. So there is no stopping any citizen from doing that at this current time. We would have to work with the Higgs Bosch to ensure that when citizens separate their garbage or separate their solid waste, that it is also compartmentalized at the sanitary landfill. We cannot do it in the other areas because the other areas are basically dump sites. But specifically to Higgs Bosch sanitary landfill, the second cell is slated for completion in the next few months. The first cell is practically filled and will probably be closed in the next 4 to 5 months. And like I said, cell 2 is about to be completed, and we hope to get that completed very soon. It is managed and it is operated and managed by a private joint venture initiative, and we expect that moving forward, that arrangement will continue. I don't think that government is in the business of making money. We have to make sure that we allow the private sector to also grow. So there is, I think, great investment opportunities in solid waste management where private sector is concerned, and many persons have already spoken to us, and we do look forward to all of the ideas and all of the plans and all of the initiatives. But we have to get this country clean. We have to get this country first world rated, and that is something that has to happen in the next 5 years.
And sorry,
all right. And Minister, you said it well there. Go ahead, Leonard.
Yes,
Go ahead.
sorry for that. One of the things that Jorg and I was quarreling on during the elections watch was the role of the NDCs and the RDCs and so on. We found that in many cases people complained that nobody was checking them at the homes during this COVID-19 period, and nobody. It seems as if the NDCs were not even aware of their situation. Sometimes the NDCs are not even aware who living in the community. What are some of the plans, or do you have big plans in terms of education for the NDCs, and maybe even to educate them that they have a new role under the laws that were passed a couple of years back, which give them more autonomy when it comes to collection of rates and taxes?
Well, I think that it is basically re-emphasizing what their roles are. And I did mention that is one of the things that we will pursue. The NDCs have a critical role in local governance and local government, and we have to make sure that they're able to perform those roles in an unimpeded way. And the best way to get that done is to make sure that we build the capacity of the people that serve on the NDCs, especially our councillors. We would have to get into communities too and start building the capacity or the potential of many of those young people, especially, who would like to serve in leadership positions in in their neighborhoods. So that is on the cards, and we are going to budget for it. We have budgeted for it, and over the next 5 years, we will budget for it consistently. That aside too, I think that we have to work with them as we have to work with other with the municipalities in finding a way of doing business differently, of providing services differently. Things have not worked the way we would like it to work. The most important thing about getting it done or getting this done is to have the initiatives of the citizens to guide that process. I don't think that citizens have been consulted upon enough or collaborated with enough, and that is going to be a hallmark of the administration of the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development with myself and Minister Anand Prasad.
Thank you. Yog?
Minister, let me ask you this with regards to the what was supposed to have been the landfill site. You did mention it, and as you know, a lot of citizens, I'm sure you would have heard, a lot of persons in that area is now complaining that it is not anymore a landfill site, it is a dump site. And I think people are extremely concerned with the stench, with the overall management of it, so that it's becoming more and more of a problem now. Is it something that is on your radar for your look at it over the near future rather than long term? Did we lose the Minister Leonard?
Yes, it is on our radar. It's part of our budget actually, and we will have to look at it. We have received complaints about the odor coming from the facility, and we have already begun discussions on closing cell 1 so that cell 2 can be open and managed.
I think we lost.
Yeah, we see
The internet is very unstable.
Yes, our apologies for that. It is something we have to talk about. It is something we have to talk about. Guyana really needs a good, stable internet service. It is something that I know, was promised to this country 15 years ago. Liberalize the environment and clean and good internet, but that's for another discussion.
You have a history in this sector, Yog, and my president has indicated in his inauguration speech that this is one of the things that he will focus on too. Liberalization of the telecommunication sector.
Great. So just to ensure that I understood what you were saying, because we lost you for a couple seconds there. In terms of the landfill, at that place there, it is in your immediate radar, and did I hear correctly, you are on the verge of making that decision to close off cell 1 to now move on to the next part, and hopefully when you get to that part, it's going to probably be with a better learning and a better application of whatever procedures there are?
Yes, naturally. Like I said, cell 1 will be closed in a few months. I don't think the technical guys have indicated to us that it has the capacity for maybe 5 months more, and not more than 5 months. So cell 2 will have to be completed, and we will work earnestly in the next few months to get cell 2 completed with those who are managing the facility, and get it up to speed so that we would not have the problems that we are currently having in terms of the odor pollution and so forth.
Correct. Now, sir, just quickly, go on. Go on.
And which brings us to the issue of greater investment in solid waste management. And I'm certain I'm happy to receive ideas on new technologies and new investments that can offset all of the problems we are currently having.
Great. Minister, in terms of littering, which you did mention, is your ministry prepared to take to be assertive in this whole aspect of littering, because it is something that I know many years ago it started, this anti-littering campaign. I know we have fines, we have rules in place, yet we have a problem. And one of the problems obviously is plastics and the dumping of plastic bottles and all of that. Is there something that you guys would be looking at in the near term to get a control on this littering problem, and especially plastics?
You know, littering is part of people's social behavior, and legislating behavior has not proven to be. So we will really have to work with the citizens. We also have to create an environment that they are able to dispose of their garbage properly. And as Leonard mentioned, and you did mention earlier about separation and about recycling and about,
Correct.
biodegradables and so forth. So I think it goes hand in hand. But we will really have to continue, and we have to up the ante on the re-education and emphasize the importance of environmental management, and make sure that, within the families, that they take this as a social responsibility, so that the littering does not become a way of life. I think we have made some strides, and I expect that in due course we are going to get to a point where we'd all love to be.
Great, great. And Minister, thank you so much for sharing with us all of that information around the whole country and stuff like that. I wanna jump to the other end. Places like Mahadeo, and of course from Mahadeo, I want to go right up to Kaieteur. As you know, we have for a moment, let's put COVID aside, because it is something that is going to, of course, guide you in your immediate actions. Molson Creek and the approaches there, in terms of that entire looking at the NDCs and the restructuring of community development in those areas, sir.
Yes, we will have to the world is moving forward. And if we want to compete with the rest of the world, we also have to be at the cutting edge. And cutting edge, not just in the technological sense, but also in our mindset, and also in the way we live, and the way we carry out our daily activities, and also in the services that we provide as a government and as institutions of the local governance system. So Georgetown, we have every year we budget resources. We intend to budget more resources for Georgetown, as we will do for Mahadeo. Mahadeo is one of the new towns. It has different characteristics. It is also a relatively transient town.
Right.
Lots of different types of cultures. So the melting pot of Mahadeo has to be addressed in a way that or guided by its characteristics. Likewise, Mabaruma. So we expect in the next 5 years that these towns are going to be productive. They are going to be, filled with economic activity. There is great potential, and we would like to harness all of that, especially at Molson Creek, Georgetown, Crabwood Creek, heading to Molson Creek. That is the way to Suriname. The two presidents have exchanged lots of notes regarding development initiatives between the two countries. President Santoki of Suriname and President Dr. Irfan Ali of Guyana. And those areas are I think, slated for much greater infrastructural works. I've begun to speak, in my discourse along Essequibo Coast. We've had all of the NDCs, including the township. They have begun a cleanup exercise as of today. We have had support from the private sector. Some of the business persons in those areas have given their excavators free of charge, their tractors, fuel, staff. We also have over 1,000 community enhancement workers in our country. We may need to increase those numbers so that more people are employed and they're out cleaning their villages in a way to ensure that they're positioned for greater development. Similarly, I will be speaking to Region 6. Minister Prasad was there over the weekend, and we expect them to also take that same approach. Georgetown, as you're aware, we have begun already, and we will do the same in all of the municipalities and neighborhood democratic councils.
Great. And sir, thank you for that. Correct me if I am wrong. I'm asking out of totally not knowing who's responsible. Who would be responsible? Is it your ministry for the cars and the car and bus parks and the speedboat landing points?
We are working very closely with the Ministry of Public Works, and whilst we are the eyes and ears of the citizens, we are also the eyes and ears of the government. So we have an integral role in making sure that those areas are also taken account of. Yeah, I think too that to inform the public that we work very closely with the Ministry of Home Affairs. The Minister of Home Affairs sits on the Interministerial Committee for Georgetown's enhancement, and he has already put together a plan that is being executed currently in Georgetown, and he has been very helpful in making sure the police force, and I must commend all of the commanders so far. They've given us total support. We've been in personal contact with many of them, and you will also see safety and security, one of the vanguards of our of the government services moving forward.
Great. And Minister, before I hand over to Leonard for his last question, I see, there is a nice suggestion coming here, and allow me to say it because it is something that, I've been thinking of too in collaboration with a number of persons. Miss Banmati Jean Ram has said, there should be village and community competitions for cleanliness. I would want to urge that, if this $1 billion we paid to 56 persons over the last 5 years, maybe we find $100,000 there, Leonard, and we allocate it, to persons who
I think it's a good
would
idea.
ensure that their area is kept clean. But that is for another discussion. But I think, one of the things we can start doing is to look at incentivizing people, to take special interest in their area. And talking about littering, I raised that, Minister, because, you look at the 63 beach, for example. It is certainly an area that has been a wonderful place for tourism and all of that, and the entire community of Berbice. But with the dumping that has taken place there over the last decade or so, it's really gotten to a very, very terrible situation. Your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, and I totally agree with you that we may very well have to find innovative ways of making sure that people take responsibility for their surroundings and their neighborhoods and the environment in general. And I agree, 63 Beach is, it's every child's dream to go to 63 Beach. And when you get there and you see the condition of it, we are left aghast. So we would have to work with residents across our country to get all of our these quote unquote tourist attractions to a state where the Ministry of Tourism, Industry and Commerce can feel proud, and that they can start to promote it or promote those as areas where people from abroad can come. Again, we are in the cusp of production. We're already producing oil, as a matter of fact. So when these billions come, lots of persons would want to also come to Guyana. So we have to, redevelop the country,
right,
to make sure that we benefit from all of that. Yeah. But I like the idea of
right. So, Minister,
project.
Great. My last question for you before I hand over to Leonard. Durban Park.
That's
what's on the horizon? What's your thoughts?
That Durban Park, as you're aware, is a monster. It is a colossal disgrace to good governance in this country. It is built on corruption, and I think that the media, they're already fully aware of what has happened, and but we cannot allow what happened in the past to take away from enhancing the lives of people. So naturally, Durban Park has a critical place in the evolution of our town, that is Georgetown, and so we would have to find a way of making sure that something happens. But in the current state it is in, it is of no use in the current state it is in. I'm
And
finding it.
I guess because it's wooden, I guess because it's wooden, it will sooner or later start to become a hazard as well, isn't it?
Well, it has already begun to decay, actually long before we got into government. So, but Durban Park was built as a means of corruption, as a way of sucking resources out of the country for personal gain. There was a director of parks earning over $500,000 per month, and I suspect that Durban Park also came under Leonard's purview. But in its current form, I think we owe it to the people of this country to get to the bottom of that Durban Park.
Great. Leonard?
Yes, thank you very much, dear Minister. It's been a very engaging 1.5 hours, I must say. I learned a lot. I want to ask you, sir, and this is off the beaten track.
Is it
As a as a young minister, as a new minister, taking into account what you would have found, and I think it's a foregone conclusion that the Guyanese people, they're not going to be so very tolerant of indecisiveness and non-delivery of services. I want to ask you your assessment. How big of a task does the PVP has in the next 5 years? You there, Minister?
I think we lost Minister.
like
I
to see
think
achieved? And
there
it is
he is.
huge
Yes,
also
there.
because of what we inherited. It is not in so.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Insurmountable, right? The task is huge, but not insurmountable. It is huge because of where we would like to see our country position in the future. And it is huge also because of what we inherited from the past regime. It is not insurmountable because I think we have the leadership capacity, we have the capability, we have the know-how, we have experienced people, and I think most importantly, we have the drive and the hunger to get things done and done in a professional, sound way, so that the country will benefit in the future. We also have the leadership that we have. We have Dr. Irfan Ali, very experienced, versed in these types of issues. The former president himself, now Vice President, Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, I think he's a national asset to all of us and to this country. And so we will ensure that we make good use of the leadership that we have. Guyana has suffered a leadership deficit between 2015 to March to August 2020, and we intend to fill that leadership deficit so that the glories that all of us would like to see in our country and experience, that those things are going to be things not of dreams, but of reality.
Thank you very much, sir. Yo,
Thank you very much, Minister. And it has been, yes, it has been an hour and a half, and we have certainly used up our time here. In a couple of minutes, we'll be out of program time. But Minister, for another minute or so that we have remaining, I'm going to deflect back to you, your open thoughts, sir, and your message to the general population, the viewers and listeners.
Well, I think the first thing I'd have to, as part of my national responsibility, and that is to encourage everyone to respect the COVID measures, respect the protocols, ensure that you wear a mask in public, ensure that you social distance, ensure that you avoid crowds, ensure that you sanitize properly, ensure that those who are affected, that they get medical attention. Beyond that, the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development is there for your cause. We are open to serving you, and we would like to get your support in ensuring that gets done. So at any given time, feel free to contact us to meet with different councillors across the country. We represent your interests, and we also would like to be the medium through which greater happens in your lives.
Great. Minister, thank you so very much for joining us in room 592. The revelations you have made here has, of course, been startling, yet interesting. And of course, the discussion about your plans for development, regional development and local government across the country is indeed interesting. Know that we are very supportive of the initiatives you're planning to have ahead. And Minister, I'd like to invite you, maybe a month from today that we meet again in the same place, to talk about what would have transpired and how the plans are going ahead. We will be looking towards inviting, of course, the mayor and maybe some councillors to join us here to talk about development plans in the city itself. But for you, sir, it's been a pleasure. Our regards to your family, sir, and of course to your colleague, Minister Prasad, in your ministry, and of course all the employees except those who have been taken away this $1 billion for this $1 billion. But Minister, it's been a pleasure to have you here. We appreciate it very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Joop. Thank you, Leonard, and good evening to your viewers and listeners.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, it's been an interesting evening here with Honorable Minister Nigel Darmlal, Minister of Local Government and Regional Development. It has been certainly an interesting learning experience for us here who have not, those of us that has not been paying enough attention to this aspect of government. It's been interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to your continuing company on Wake Up Guyana. That happens every day at 1:30 now that Mr. Gildarie is back on the daytime show. And I look forward, and Leonard as well, we look forward to your company on Wednesday evening at 7:30 in another episode as we have another minister lined up to come and talk with us Wednesday evening, 7:30 in room 592. It's been a pleasure to have you all here. Our thanks to the technical team at Kaieteur Radio. Know that, ladies and gentlemen, COVID is still out there very much. Please, we appeal to you all. Be safe, observe the protocols, stay within the limits. It's made to help us. Those limits are there to help you and I. And room 592 and yours truly, we ask you, please be aware of those protocols and care for your family. The end of COVID can be brought to an end by you and I observing the protocols and doing what is right for ourselves. Let us look out for one another and be our brothers' keepers in this regard. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to have you in room 592, wherever you've been joining us from. Do have a great night. And remember, say a prayer for this beautiful country of ours. It is still the best place in this planet. So be safe. Have a great evening with your families, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye now.